Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
Okay, we usually divide our sessions in 3 different blocks. The first one is the conceptual framework. We will dedicate something like 20 minutes to presentations to put the main concepts on the table, okay? Later we will discuss about the disruption needs and solution with the participation of the attendants. So it will be a common exercise of intelligence, and the suggestion is to have a fluid, quick dialogue. So the maximum 3 minutes per person in the second and third block, okay? But for the first one, we will have 2 speakers. Welcome, both of you, Jean-Luc and Xavier, okay? Jean-Luc is from the Pole, sorry, because my French is very, very bad. So,
Fibre Énergie.
Fibre Énergie. Okay, thank you, Jean-Luc. Welcome, the floor is yours. I will give you the presentation rights.
Yes, please.
Now. Okay, we are seeing.
So, can you see my presentation? It's okay?
Yes, it's at the last, yeah.
I have a little problem.
Yes, you need to return to the first one.
Please, up. No, it doesn't work. Sorry.
You are in the last slide. You need to return to the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, that one, for example.
Yes,
yeah.
Perfect. You're right. It's okay. So, good morning, everybody. So, I will present you a view of the dispersion in the construction sector. So, the situation in France, the decision of the construction, the origin of the disturbance was the decision of the construction company to completely stop the construction sites after the governmental decision. Oh, sorry. After the governmental decision of containment. It was not the case everywhere in Europe, but it was the case in France. So in consequence, we have 92% of the factories were shut down in France. Currently, the activity now has restored at an average of 80%. The consequences will be a risk of destabilization of the economic fabric of the building sector with we expect minus 20% of the activity in 2020 and also minus 20% even in 2021. Of course, it will induce social risks because a lot of people involved in construction sector are temporary workers. So we anticipate a difficult situation for the 2 coming years. So the action we think could be taken. The first one, the principal one, will be a massive renovation of existing buildings, which is till now it's a market that hardly exists today and will have a counter-cyclical effect. In fact, of course, everybody wants to renovate existing buildings. It's a political aim, but till now, we didn't find the good business model. I think it's not the case only in France, but also in other countries of Europe. Second point is digitalization of the building sector. The building sector is almost the last sector which is not digitized in it's worldwide, it's in Europe, it's mainly in France, of course. So we think digitalization, I will come back on this point later, but I think it's something very important. Industrialization of the building sector with the development of off-site manufacturing and prefabrication. To be very concrete, it means you don't put together windows, doors, and bricks on the construction site, but you will put together parts parts of walls together, prefabricated and pre-industrialized in manufacturers. So the last point is skills transportation and transfer. It aims to ensure a good employability in the building sector. So we have to a large part of people have to change their way of working and face the social risk in order to face the social risk due to the COVID-19 crisis. The condition to be met. This program is part of, for me, this program is a part of the Green Deal. There is an absolute necessity to maintain the trajectory of the decarbonization of the economy. Why? The decarbonization of economy, especially in construction sector, which will allow the recovery of the sector, as I said, because this market of refurbishment doesn't really exist now. So it's really a new market, and it can be billions of euro in France, of course, but also in Europe, which will give resilience to Europeans housing stock cheaper to maintain, and also we will have to face in the future, in the next years, of heat waves. We think we will have one this summer. We will have an heat wave in France. So if when we refurbish our buildings, it will give us a better resilience, which will contribute to Europe's energy independence by reducing consumption, which will contribute to fight against energy poverty in households weakened by the COVID-19 crisis, which will allow Europe to respect the Paris Agreement, of course, which is a very strong aim, a political aim. And proposed action at European level. The first, as I said, is to support the digitalization and industrialization of the building sector. If I take the French example, we estimate that if all the sector, construction sector will be numerized, it will be digitized. It means 15% of added value. Which means 20 billion euro per year, which is, of course, something very important. And the second idea is leverage the Green Deal to mobilize private funds to construction for new building and refurbishment for existing building in order to achieve zero CO2 emission for Europe's building stocks. And of course, it will be a way of a contracyclical way to maintain activity in the construction sector. Thank you for attention.
Wonderful. Thank you. Very, very interesting. We will return to you, okay? But now we are giving the floor to Xavier. Xavier from Cluster AVIC. Welcome, Xavier. Are you there? Can you speak?
Yeah, good morning, Antonio. I was here like checking the microphone. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, perfectly.
Okay. Good morning.
So the floor is yours.
So I have a small presentation of our cluster, maybe to introduce a little bit better our work. So we are a little bit different from a construction cluster, as we are mainly manufacturers of building equipment and products for furnishing. So maybe I'm going to share with you this. I don't know if you can see now my screen.
Not yet. Now, yes, we can see it.
So, well, we are a cluster, as I said, for the building equipment and furnishing products manufacturers. We are almost 100 members right now, and we are here in the north of Spain. We are a very industrialized area, and well, we are like yes, as I said, about 100 companies, mainly manufacturers. I'm going to show you here briefly our value chain and our members. Our core are the manufacturers. As I said, we are a very industrialized area in Spain, and we also have these other parts of the value chain where we are working also together with them. The type of products that we use here in the Basque Country in our companies are these kind of products that you see here, like floorings, wall coverings, doors, control, access, domotics, partition systems, well, all this stuff that goes in buildings. So we are in the construction sector, but we are manufacturers of products, not building or the eco companies. So our numbers briefly are these ones that you see here. So as you can imagine, we are mainly hit by this part of the market and internationalization and export ratios that right now are our main issues. We have, as you can see, also a very high export ratio outside of the European Union. We are mainly working in the both Northern and America and Southern American countries, and we have a quite high level of investment in research and development projects. So, well, these are our working groups together with the companies. And briefly, I have took some quick notes about how we are being hit by the COVID crisis. I have separated like these two main parts, like the production part and the production processes, where we are not maybe so affected as we have seen, like in the production lines and processes. It has been quite easy to adopt and keep health and safety measures. Of course, we have taken a lot of measures and need to change the way that we were working until March, but it has been quite easy to adopt these measures. The critical value chain, even it's not been so hit so hard like in other industries, but of course some providers we need to check them, as of course we have been run out of some components for our final products coming from other countries, mainly from China, but also from another European country. So this has been a small issue that we are trying to tackle, and it's going to be a project for the next months to check again for these providers and how to create smaller or shorter value chains. And in the other hand, also the credit and bank loans right now are working quite well. In the other hand, we have our main issues are being coming from the market and the sales departments. As I said before, our sport ratio is very high, and right now all the sales force is kept at home, so they cannot go outside and look for new projects. And this is quite a big issue, because in our case, our companies are working in small projects, small clients, and usually also with customized solutions. So the, all this work of customization and personalization and working in projects have been stopped right now. So also trade fairs have been canceled all over the world, and we have like the companies running well, the production processes are running well, but we are not able to get new orders. So this is our main problem right now. Even the orders that were coming before the coronavirus crisis, of course, have been produced, but we can't serve them, as we have to go with our teams and our products to some other countries. And right now we can't do that, not in the European Union, but neither to other foreign countries. So this has been a big issue right now, because all these products are being stocked in our factories, and companies are not getting paid for this order. So we are having here some imbalance between the products that we produce and when we are getting paid. So we are having some problems of cash flow, and probably in the short term future we could have also some more problems related to this. Also, we have seen like all the timings in the public sector have been stopped. We have a lot of companies, as you can imagine, working for the public sector, furnishing public buildings and equipping them, and all this procurement has been stopped. So again, we are having here a big problem with new orders. And we are seeing opportunities for digitalization for market and sales area, but it seems that it's not so developed yet as maybe we could adopt digitalization technologies in production processes. So we are looking for how to adopt these new digitalization tools so that the sales force can still run, can develop these projects that I told you before, like customization, personalization, and being with clients, even they can't move from the region. And we think there could be a big opportunity in future. And in long term, what we are also checking is that we will need to invest also in new research and development projects, as we have seen how needs are changing right now in offices, in sale points, in tourism, in healthcare system. We think that the products that we are producing right now will need to adapt to new market demands, as all these sectors are changing. We have seen how a lot of people is moving from their office to work remotely at home. We have seen a lot of changes in how people is buying products, and how the small stores and the sale points are now closing, and probably they will transform a lot in the next months. Tourism is almost stopped, so we will see again another huge transformation in this sector. And of course, healthcare system is right now collapsed, and they will start adopting new products and new ways to attend patients, and also we will need to adapt our products to these markets. So this is more or less our approach to this crisis and to the future. So, well, that's all from my part.
Sorry, thank you very much, Xavier. Very interesting presentation, both of them. I would like to hear comments or other experiences from other clusters working on, or companies, sorry, or institutions working on construction here. Who is the first? You are invited to share. It's important to have your contributions.
Antonio,
Carmen.
this is Carmen de Besa from Cluster AIC. Good morning, everybody. Well, from the region of Castilla and Leon, that you all know, we are working together with other clusters of other industries, trying to search or trying to define common actions for our companies and our sectors. And I think all of us are giving our vision, our experience, and all together, I think we are going to get a good plan of actions.
Okay,
for
and what?
reactivating the economy.
Perfect. And what are your main disruptions, Carmen? What would you share about disruptions and solutions?
Well, some innovating business models, and of course, digitalization. That's one of the focus. And it's very interesting what Jean-Luc has said about the added value of the digitalization in our sector. 15%, I understood. Is that right?
Yes, it's a recent study we had in France. It's a French public bank, BPI, who said perhaps it's a bit hard, but they said 15%, and I think we could. I'm not sure we could achieve 15% in very fast, but I think it is possible, yes. And as I said, 15%. It's in France, for France market, it's 20 billion euros, which is of course a lot of money.
Could you please, Jean-Luc, put the name of the study in the chat of the GoToMeeting?
Of course,
Okay,
I will send it. Okay. Of course, it's the study is in French, but
no problem. Je parle français parfaitement. Je préfère le français que l'anglais.
je vous l'envoie. Très bien.
Merci.
Je le mets dans le chat.
Très bien. No problem at all, Jean-Luc. Google Translator is our close friend. Anyway, no problem at all. In fact, there is a new tool published by the European Commission that now we can use. I don't have here the link, but Ulla Engelmann shared it past week on LinkedIn. It's open for SMEs and also for us. So this is a recommendation. I will look for that tool, okay? So we don't need to go for other external tools. Very interesting. Yeah.
This is I manage the international development of aluminum industry group, and you wanted for us to share experiences, right?
All right, go on.
So what happens to us? We have an extrusion company, and also we manufacture components and accessories for mainly glass and window companies. Even though we are first line of the value chain, and also we have developed our own system for outdoors. Other than the obvious stop for the few weeks that we have to completely shut down the factories. For the rest, we've been working, and also with a lot of uncertainty about the future, even though we haven't, as my colleague from the Basque region was saying, we haven't stopped receiving orders or working, except for those 2 weeks that we have to close down the factory. And what had happened is that now there are a few opportunities in the line of the accessories because of the pandemic and the need to readjust all the spaces. We are even using all references for accessories that are being used for doing those isolations, those partitions that right now have been done by with plastic, but they're going to evolve to glass, just because glass is it seems like a better solution in the long term. For various reasons I'm not entering. And also there is an opportunity because, as our other colleague from France was saying, there is a need not only in reform of buildings, but in houses. Most of the homes are gonna be renewed, and I'm sure in your personal experience, I have seen colleagues or peers or friends that are already doing things in their house, in their patios, in their terraces, and so they are adjusting their spaces to spend more time there. I mean, now because it was mandatory, but later on because it seems that it's going to be the trend. And internationally, we've seen the different markets evolving, but still you see companies and willing, to be prepared for when everything was open, because the expectation is that it's going to be a lot of work, even though we've been discussing this week, there might be shortage or adjustment in the supply chain, but that working internationally, I mean, that could be adjusted somehow. But that is so far our experience, and maybe you can ask details, and I'll bring more things of what we've been working. But we've been really pushing, especially in the certain markets that we've been working very well, and they seem to be reacting also well in regards to coming back to their level.
Sorry, there was some noise.
So that was it. So I'm more than willing to learn more details if should you be interested. So, but I wanted to add. I mean, industry.
Thank you very much, Sonsoles. If you want to give the reference of your company, you could put it in the chat if you want, okay? Victor Ferreira from Cluster
Hello,
Habitat.
Antonio. Yeah,
Hello,
Cluster
hello,
Habitat,
welcome.
Portugal.
Bon dia.
Pleased to meet you. I just want to signal that starting from Xavier and Jean-Luc presentations, I find some common aspects, and that indeed we have a cluster that indeed follows the same kind of structure that Cluster ABIC or IACE in Valladolid. So having the value chain of construction, starting in a lot of transforming industries, and being characterized by having as the structure in Portugal for a lot of SMEs also. Well, around maybe 90% of the companies are SMEs. So most of them exporting, and I would like to signal also this disruption that is being caused by the sales force can't move, like Xavier has said, and also orders can't be accessed because some markets are being closed. This is critical for the exporting companies. For the companies working in refurbishment in terms of national wise, we have seen that work as going on. So we didn't have an immediate stop, and now things are getting up again. So I think that one need would be some care. I think all over Europe, some care about the refurbishment market could be a way to install trust and a certain movement in the SMEs companies that are doing a lot of refurbishment, and also materials producers that are supplying materials and other goods for these refurbishment actions. So I think this is an important issue. Of course, in terms of challenges, as Jean-Luc has put it, I think the next big challenge will be in terms of needs the digitalization of processes from materials production and processes to BIM in architecture, if you want, paperless interventions in industry and other related actions, but also the Green Deal, the Green Deal and the circular economy challenges that can be changing aspects in the way we approach construction value chain, and also a way to value European market and European companies that have these good practices. So I think this could be an interesting challenge. The Green Deal policy, the circular economy, national and regional plans that are coming up, emerging. This could be a good innovation and also market drivers that could distinguish European companies, and Europe and its member states should pay attention to the valorization of European companies through these actions and goals. I think this is the important issue here. So basically, thank you very much for allowing me the intervention, and I'm of course open to. I think it would be important. We have here a series of interesting clusters, ABIC, Fiber Energy, and also IACE and other related construction clusters. I think a collaboration, European collaboration between us, we are open to it, and of course we have the same challenges, and I think we can find a common ground to cooperate and to be able to face this digitalization and Green Deal challenges together, and to press in this sense in order to mitigate the disruptions that this COVID pandemic has caused in all sectors, particularly in the construction sector. Thank you very much.
Obrigado, Victor.
Obrigado.
I am curious about what does means digitalization for you, because you know digitalization could be related to your sales force with your internal organization, or it could be related to the digital buildings, okay, the smart buildings, if you want. And I think that effects on the market or the could be totally different. In fact, I think that
okay.
I think it's important to distinguish between both, no? I don't know, when you say that there will be 15% more of value on the market will be caused by the use of digital tools by your workers or by your sales force, or are you referring to the implementation of digital functionalities to the buildings?
For me, it's for all the.
Okay.
please, Victor, please.
No, just to finish, because I used the term, and of course, I think the digitalization for me, it's a lot of aspects. I think that I'm referring to my companies, and there is a lot of challenges there, depending on the nature of the company and the subsector they are into. So it can be for architects, engineering, something related to BIM, or for other companies related to paperless strategies. But also, if you think about manufacturers, we are thinking about the digitalization in the factory ground, which means in the processes, and also in the way they deal with sales and markets. So it can be many things. I think there is for cities, for instance, we have some municipalities that are our members in the cluster, and we have some companies that can play a role on smart city information details for those who are managing cities, for instance. So depending on the nature of the company that is in our value chain, in our cluster, digitalization means different things, but are certainly these all these aspects that can contribute for a more resource efficiency, okay, and can lead indeed with the increase in the outcomes and in the for the company's financial aspects also. So sorry, thank you. Please,
Antonio.
Yes, for me, digitalization in the construction sector is all the value chain. For example, it's building information modeling. It means you don't have paper plans, but everything is on digitized for the studies on the construction site, and the managing of the building for 50 years of all this duration. Everything has to be and we will digitize, and we will earn a lot of money for all the value chain. So it's not only it's also construction in the manufacture to prepare the construction sites. So it's we have really a revolution to have in all the building sector. It's very complicated, but I think the crisis we live now could be an opportunity. It's difficult to say that, but could be an opportunity to go on, to begin really. We speak on digitalization in building sector for 10 years now. Things I have in the cluster, we speak on that, and everybody is waiting for next one. You have to begin. I will go after, and I think we have to stop that and to begin really now with digitalization in building sector, and we have a lot of money to earn. Everybody, all the value chain.
I will give you an example, okay? Just challenging, okay? For example, the energy control on the buildings is very cheap to implement, but I don't see it implemented in the new buildings. And it's very cheap to implement energy control and to give the users the application and the capacity to know if they have they are using wrongly the electrodomestics and so on. And I don't see that implemented.
You cannot say we don't see it at all, but we don't see. We don't see it doesn't it does exist, but it's not enough. We have to make it in all buildings, and as Victor said, after it's also the smart city. When you have a smart building, you can have the smart city. It's all the value chain. It's very important to begin now. I think, as I agree completely with Victor, it could be a project aim for all our clusters in Europe. It could be our new way of buildings in Europe. It could be a special mark in the world of this digitalized construction sector for of course, to achieve the aims of the climate change and to avoid fossil energy. So it's completely included in the Green Deal.
Antonio, can I say something?
Gracias. Oh, for sure.
Yes, we have problems. The entire country internet connection is now erratic here, so I'm participating through the phone. Very interesting what I heard so far. Even though I was, getting it interrupted, I want to make the following comment and question. Actually, the coronavirus pandemic has brought up the notion that the building must be very active and to be able to effect decontamination, disinfection measures by itself. This is some aspect of the building that we have not seen it in the past, and this involves both traditional sectors. For example, we are working now with some companies on incorporating antiviral and other elements in the actual paints and in the surfaces that the building is made of, but also active measures that involve, scheduled disinfections, that the disinfection machinery and schedules are part of the building as such. So I would like to actually support what it was said earlier, that there is a need to create a project that is really trying to assess and also bring out to the market approaches that make the building resilient in the biological sense, that the building is able to recover and to provide disinfection and virus control functions for its inhabitants as part of its infrastructure. So this creates a lot of new opportunities, both in the traditional companies, but also to bring in digitalizations, sensors, or even new ways to make the disinfection that is compatible with the presence of the people inside the building.
Yes.
Antonio.
Hello. I'm Xavier again. I agree what these last comments, as we have been also seeing some orders related to non like disinfectant and this kind of surfaces in materials and products that are able to keep the viruses and this kind of diseases out of the products, and we are not completely sure if this is going to be a long-term trend or it's just going to be for this moment, as nobody knows what is going to happen with the virus. But of course, I think that the market is more aware about this kind of products that are able to keep some clean and not infected surfaces or products. So yes, this is an interesting point also. And coming back to the to the part of the digitalization, for us, there are like two levels. One is the level that Antonio commented about the smart buildings, and we think that there is a big opportunity producing new smart products. We are working on smart furniture and smart components that are able to collect data and make the building work better, both in energy terms, but also in functionality, in how many people is occupying the building or the working places and so on. And the other level, I think it's all this level that you are talking about, the paperless building projects, the BIM models, the building information modeling processes. For us, the development of this process is very important, as we think it could be a digital platform to collaborate to all the stakeholders and manufacturers. And these parts that I was saying before about customization of the projects and the products can be done in this kind of platforms and building project processes. So I think the two levels are strategic right now for us also.
I want also to add that there is now a conflict when we talk about energy efficient buildings. it means buildings that are not really exchanging with the outside. There is a lot of recirculation, otherwise you lose energy, which at the same time is in conflict with the notion that we need to have, clean air and also to be able to have the virus control, viral loading control into this internal space. This has been the case, of course, in the past, where there is a lot of indoor air quality studies and approaches. But now I think we have one more obligation and challenge to overcome, while to provide at the same time a healthy environment inside the building, but at the same time to be energy efficient. And these two conflicting requirements generate opportunity for innovation by making now not just passive surfaces and antiviral coatings and all of that. I agree with you. What you said is now a kind of fashion or fad, immediate request, but we don't know how long it will be. But making actually active protection, making systems in the buildings that will be actively protecting. And then we can imagine that, for example, the entire field of air conditioning and heating is going to change because filter requirements, antiviral coatings, even catalytic approaches would be necessary to make sure that the air is maintained. And at the same time, because all these have an energy requirement, how to manage these in a smart way, and even with model-based control. Hello, yes, with a lot of with a lot of also additional modeling, for example, agent-based modeling on how people are moving inside these spaces, generates a lot of opportunities now for collaboration.
Thank you. Daniel, you want to speak?
Yes, I wanted to add a few comments on a few of the spots on the conversations. First, when we're talking about the road to digitalization of the sector, in Spain, BIM, the Building Information Modeling, is a mandatory practice for buildings promoted by the public sector. So this is something that the public is leading the way for the others. Actually, the construction is everything. It's from the biggest building at the ministry to the smallest house in the most remote village. And we know that the construction sector tends to be very efficient in the use of its resources, and sometimes just passes on with whatever there is at hand. So there is not a lot of innovation in the heads of a lot of or a big part of the sector. In the smart city cluster, we have one of our branches has to do with urbanism and construction and architecture, and the technologies allow for the elaboration of sustainable master planning, where you can use actually computerized fluid dynamic analysis techniques, where you can lay the streets of your city, model the shapes and sizes of the buildings, learn about, depending on where your city is on Earth, how the sun shines, how the wind blows. There are wind maps, there is water presence, and you can actually predict some of the behaviors and some of the road that the way that the air is going to take along the buildings, so you can see if your city is going to be hotter or cooler, and that is something that is already underway. In Europe, we don't have a lot of large new developments, but this has been very frequent in Southeast Asia because there has been such a huge urban development in the recent years. Also, at the building level, there are plugins for AutoCAD that you can use, because if you can play with the shape of your building at the design time, you can make your mistakes there. You can anticipate how much sunlight you can get in your offices. You can anticipate what the energy consumption of the building is going to be. and you can predict and change, but at the moment of designing, you don't have to wait to make mistakes until the building is done. And you can save a lot of money if you take the right design decisions. So there is many efficiencies to be achieved using the right technologies in the sector.
Thank you very much, Daniel. So, what about circular economy in construction?
If I can answer, circular economy is of course very important. In France, for example, the construction sector is 150 million tons of disease, so it's very much. And circular economy is something very important to promote in the construction sector, because we can avoid a lot of energy and a lot of raw materials. So I think I didn't speak of it in my introduction, because for me the first step is digitalization. But of course you're right, circular economy is also another aim to achieve in our construction sector in Europe.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree. This is a very interesting topic also, as we are seeing like Europe is already constructed, and as the other speaker said before, we are not having huge urban plannings and new developments in Europe, but we are having like new refurbishments and also taking one building down and having a completely one build up. And the issue is that all the materials that were in these old buildings, we are not able to reuse or recycle them, and usually they go just to waste. So for future, I think this is a very interesting point, because if we are able to have our buildings designed and built with materials and components that are possible to disassemble and to reuse in future, this could be a very interesting point for the industry, as we are not going to have this huge leakage of waste to the environment. And of course, this is a huge challenge to everybody, as it starts from the project designers, but also the manufacturers are very important, as we need to have all these materials and components prepared to be disassembled and to reuse. So of course, this is a very interesting point, but I think it's not as easy as in other industries. Like for example, in the car manufacturing industry, it seems like quite easy, as everything is centralized and everything is digitalized, and all the models are completely defined. And in construction, even we have these VIM models, and where we're supposed to have all the materials and all the project completely defined. The reality right now is that in the construction sites, a lot of decisions are taken, a lot of materials and components are switched, and this is something that we would need to develop in the coming years in order to have this transition to circular models.
If I may say, I think.
Oh, sorry. Can
I just
Victor,
wanted.
No,
okay.
Antonio.
Someone is trying to talk,
I think
so
that
I will wait. I will wait.
Okay, Antanasios, go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that yes, recycling the materials from the building is difficult now and so on, but there are many ways to have circular economy approaches. For example, in the insulations, in components that can be sent back, high value components, and that can be reused, that they have a large energy content in them, or also in bringing waste materials into the formulations of the construction business, in which case the building acts as a sink or as an end point where otherwise waste materials would be otherwise materials would end up as waste, can be used and can be incorporated in the construction. And I'm talking obviously in the case of cement formulations, other special structural elements that have to do with boards and also insulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Victor.
I just want to say that it's quite an important issue for us, and also because digitalization, for instance, can be a good help for circular economy, as circular economy can be a very good help for decarbonization and the Green Deal. So this is all interlinked, just another way to look at the problem. For us, we have been having some projects in this area, and it's I think the important driver is to use this concept to challenge our companies in thinking a new way of building and managing buildings in this with this logic of circular economy, because we have to stop a little bit to be the tendency, for instance, for manufacturers to look at them as producing companies, okay, and they should be more all about managing the existent stock of materials in the outside and inside buildings, okay. So this means that they have to look for themselves in other way, and this can help some emissions and energy resources spending, for instance, or savings, if you look at the other way. So it's quite an important challenge, and it means in the construction sector to look at the way we are building things today, and maybe changing them, challenging to change the way we are building in order to achieve these objectives. I think that without that, it's very hard to establish a full circular economy model, and I think it's important to challenge also in this sense, because this will bring innovation into the construction sector. So at least this is what we are doing with our members, and try to establish projects that in a way challenges them in thinking construction in some other way, using other materials, and even the traditional materials, which have a lot of energy requirements. If you think about ceramics, cement-based materials that are put into construction, challenging them to look at those materials that they are producing nowadays, and say if in 5 years times they want to be producing the same, if they want to be installing them in buildings in the same way, without some of these materials are installed and kept there for a long period of time, depending on their durability, but they are put there in a way that you cannot reuse them without breaking them. So it's or without making them a waste. So I think there are important challenges here that also has a great impact on CO2 emissions, in energy savings, but this is linked to the way we architects plan a building, how selecting a material, how making it reversible or not. So I think it's quite an interesting, challenging from the innovation and the market point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. We have here a cluster on ceramics from France. Would you comment, Florent? Would you share your ideas? No? Okay. Okay.
Antonio, if I could come in for a second. Yeah,
sure.
I would just want to point out, because construction sector is recognized as really one of the key areas where for the recovery strategy the Commission foresees and also wants to generate a lot of activity, and therefore in recovery strategy document which was published last week, where it's this EU next generation EU, the Europeans moment, repair and prepare for the next. There is a activity, I mean, it's called upcoming renovation. So under the renovation wave, this is really one of the recognized topics already now, because there are many more to come, but renovation wave has been used as an example, which will be one of the topics where there will be focus, and it's focusing on creating jobs in construction, renovation and other labor-intensive industries, and through regulatory and financial support, such as doubled in size in EU, the aim will be to at least double
We are losing
existing
your
building stock. And oh, sorry. So it's really, they want to double the can you hear me?
yes.
They want to
think so.
double the investment in the infrastructure window in Invest EU, which member states can then all the recovery and resilience facility. So should then be a boost through this renovation wave. It's good news for you that this has been identified as one of the areas where something has to be done.
Thank you, Ula. Marek, I have shared in the screen map that you have sent to me. Would you comment on it? Marek? No? Seems that Marek have problems with the mic, with the microphone. Okay.
Antonio, can I add something else? Just a short adding, because I was thinking about this. I think for all of this discussion, it's very important to have the contribution of what we call the public procurement. So it's we were talking a little while ago about BEAM and now about circular economy and valorization of that in public procurement, in what we call the green public procurement. It's very important, because if the public works are not leading by example and not demanding this kind of, it will be harder to implement this circular economy or digitalization procedures from architecture to buildings. Okay, so I think this is a main role that member state governments can play in, and I know that some regions in Europe are already leading in this area in different ways. So we are still a little behind, but aiming to implement these things. But if loops are not closed, if this example is not given in public procurement, the private initiative will tend to delay a little bit this implementation, because they don't find the right environment for their investments in that sense. I just want to add that the importance of green public procurement.
Perfect, Victor. Very, very clear. Marek.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I wanted you to show this. It was related to what Ula said about this renovation wave which is coming, and the huge boost given to the construction sector. You see, in Europe we have many dwellings which still were constructed in 1919. So I think we have heard lots of notions about smart buildings, but I think the notion of healthy buildings is as well very important to be brought up. And I thank you for the voice of Tasos on this sanitation of buildings. I think if buildings are old, they are not healthy neither, and they can create lots of medical problems. So this is definitely a big boost for the construction sector. But having this opportunity to talk here, I would have, if I may, to the presenters three questions. One is technology. Nobody mentioned here 3D printing, how 3D printing can be used in construction, and other technologies, of course, materials that can be used, substitute, which are more sustainable, which are linked to circular economy, so that the waste is not generated. Another point, so there's a huge potential for innovation. You have discussed it. Another one is on the social aspect, because there will be lots of people unemployed. As you mentioned, the people employed in construction sector are very much temporary. So wouldn't be a good idea to have kind of this TIT service or voucher service that we have, for example, in Belgium for cleaning houses, also on as well for the people who are temporarily employed. Of course, this is subsidized by the public authorities, but all these benefits are not having black market or green, and helping the people to come on the market. And then the last point, since we are still saying we are getting into recovery mood, but I haven't heard any issue really on disruption in supply chains of lack of materials or any kind of this. Maybe because the construction is very much proximity, but there's, it seems that the only like main important is what there was the ban on construction workers to work. Otherwise, disruption in lack of materials didn't happen very much. So please, could you refer to this? Thank you very much.
Who want to answer?
Can I?
For sure.
Can I add some? Just a small thing, because this is related to this issue of employment. What we are seeing now, at least in Portugal, is that some of the small companies that are doing refurbishment actions and all this, they are finding harder every day to find people that wants to work on construction sites, you know. And so this means that the way we build things probably have to change and be more industrialized and be more like an assemblage. I mean, people want to move from construction sites to industrial sites, so that means that construction itself has to be more industrialized in terms of processes, and then can be assembled quickly in construction sites, because there will be no people wanted to work in dirty jobs, if you can put it in this way. So small companies are finding harder to find young people. The working task force is getting old, and people are finding hard because young people want to apply for different kind of jobs that has to be related with computing and other more attractive areas. So this means that one way of the construction sector to deal with this has to be to change the process, the building process, in making it more an assembly process, and making the supply more the materials more industrial, more prefabricated materials that can be rapidly assembled or used in refurbishment action. I think this, we are seeing this kind of changing, and this will also play a role in terms of keeping in the changing of the employment nature in the construction sector. Thank you.
I agree completely with Victor, and I think it could be a good idea to have a roadmap for the building construction sector in Europe, because we will have more studies before with digitalization. We will have, as you said, more industrialization, and we'll have less time on the construction sites, which is a good news, because I think we will have better quality in our buildings, which is so it's very really a good news. But it means that as we were speaking on employment of the sector, it means we should have a roadmap. I think it could be a good idea at a European level, a roadmap on what is the future of this industry, because I can say building construction will be an industry more and more, and so it means that we have to change the employment of people, and it's a good time to do it.
I would also like to add that the industrialization process also have some other advantages related to this part of safety conditions of workers. As you all know, construction sites are dangerous places to work, and when we have all these traditional processes with a lot of materials and machines there and a huge amount of people there working inside, there are like quite dangerous tasks to do, and if we are able to industrialize all these processes and make buildings that are able to assemble with industrialized components and products, we will also have another point of view from outside the sector, and also people would be more interested in working in construction and this industry, as we would be switching from the construction side to factories, and this could be also an opportunity to boost also digitalization, circular economy, industrialization. So I think everything is related, and it's a challenge that we all need to tackle.
So I will repeat one question that is interesting for this session, okay? Are you suffering any kind of concrete disruption in the supply chain at this moment? Or are you forecasting problems on that area? Or not at all?
For us, we have some small issues, but it's not something critical right now. We are having our main issues are coming from the market, and how we are able to get new orders, and how we are able to move the sales force.
For us, the problem was the stop of the construction sites. So the industry couldn't send its products. It's not a problem of value of supply chain. It's a problem of demand.
Okay.
I agree. And also, you know, with borders closing, being our main markets, Spain, France, Germany, and so on, construction sites closing, borders closing, this is the kind of disruption that is affecting our value chain.
And I have another question, just finishing today, okay? Does it make sense to you to try to organize a expert group on that area and continue inviting you to join sessions and thinking about what to do together as a European level?
Sure. Thank you for the proposal.
Yes, of course.
I know it could be that you have another options or no, but we will invite you, okay, and we will see. But I think that as I have been hearing you, it could be a good idea, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. It has been a very interesting session. Thank you very much to all of you. Okay, tomorrow we will speak about another topic. Okay, it's the aerospace and the defense ecosystem. You are all invited to participate, and also to extend the invitation to those of those persons in your network that you think you could be interested. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Antonio. Bye bye.
Antonio.